Hi everyone, it's Stacy. Thank you for coming on this yoga leap with me. Welcome to anyone who has been practicing with me through the videos for the last little while. Welcome to anyone new finding the videos for the first time. I do have my chair here this week, so I'll be moving between the chair and the floor as always, and I'll try and give options. If something doesn't feel good in your body, just rest in a pose that feels good. Find a few breaths, wait for me to catch up if you're waiting for some cues for one of the props, the chair being one of them. Speaking of props, if you want to practice with any props such as blocks, bolsters, blankets, straps, by all means go ahead and grab them. Other than the chair and maybe blocks, I won't be cueing with any props. I just never know what people have at home. This week we're going to focus a little bit on some balance postures. So it might feel a bit challenging, but let's get our beginner's mindset on, our attitudes of, hey, I may or may not be feeling like I can accomplish balance today, and we'll just see where it takes us. That's the beauty of yoga. It's a practice and it's different every time we step on our mat or to our chairs. So I will be starting seated, and we'll move through a bit of a warm-up with a bit of core balancing to open up, and then we'll get into some balances. So I'll meet you back on the mat seated. So you can go ahead and start in your chair or on the mat, like I said. I'm just going to move the chair out of the way to begin with, but if you're in your chair, go ahead and settle in, finding a comfortable seated position. We'll root down through sit bones, and depending on what type of chair you have, you may have a back that you could rest against, arm rests, whatever it is that will help you feel comfortable. And if you're on the mat, you can sit in easy seated, cross-legged. If you're practicing lotus or half lotus and you're feeling ready to come into something like this, it's quite intense at the beginning, but go ahead if you are feeling like you're ready for it. And we'll just start with a little bit of just sort of mindfulness, and to get us into our space and time here. It's amazing that you have found your way to the chair or the mat to find this bit of time that's just for yourself. And we want to make sure that we're really focused in on spending the time thinking about this particular moment. So it's a long-winded way to say we just want to be in the present moment. Let's bring our hands to our thighs or our lap, our knees, whatever feels best for you. You can have the hands turned down, or you can turn the hands up, whatever feels best. If you're turning the hands up, it might invite a little bit more energy into your practice. If you're turning them down, it might feel a little more calming or grounding. So depending on the time of day that you're practicing, you can choose what's best for you. I'm going to turn mine down. And the same goes for option to close the eyes. If that feels comfortable for you, go ahead and close the eyes. Otherwise, just maybe turning the gaze down and finding something nice and still to rest the gaze on the floor. And then let's take a couple of breaths here, a couple of deep cleansing breaths. You can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just kind of sigh it all out. Try to fill up when you're inhaling in all directions. So kind of imagine the chest expanding to the side, to the front and the back, filling the belly. Take a couple more here. And then we can start to just let the breath find its natural rhythm and start to notice that natural rhythm. Notice where we feel the breath flowing with ease. Maybe we notice areas where it is getting stuck, and that's okay. We're just noticing. This is all part of that coming into the present moment and really paying attention to ourselves here. Turning our attention inward. Maybe noticing how our bodies are feeling. You can give them a quick scan from toe to head and head to toe. Don't forget the fingers. Maybe if it helps, without opening eyes or anything, just to bring a bit of awareness to any area in your body where maybe you're feeling a little stuck, you're feeling not as great as you'd like. Maybe that's a shoulder, a knee, anywhere, and just bringing a hand to that place, and just with a bit of loving kindness, bring attention and awareness to that space. And if there's more than one, go ahead and send a bit of loving kindness to all those places. And then maybe we can turn our attention again to scanning our bodies from head to toe and toe to head. Don't forget to scan those arms and fingers. Now let's find areas in the body where maybe we're feeling really great. We're feeling no nags, no pain, no stiffness. And we'll bring a little loving kindness to those areas as well. So you can place your hands wherever that might be. That's just helping us bring awareness to where we are today. And like I said, with yoga, it changes every day. It's a practice. We'll take a few more breaths here. And then we'll start to move a little bit and warm up the body. If the eyes are closed, maybe fluttering the eyes open and taking in our surroundings. And then we'll start to inhale. We can sweep our arms up overhead. And then we'll just exhale the hands back down. Let's do a couple big breaths like this. Inhale, reach up, 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 reach further, further, further than you think. And then exhale, press it all out, back down to sides of the chair or the mat. A couple more at your own pace here. Let's inhale, reach all the way up. Let's maybe clasp the fingers, turn the palms up towards the ceiling if that feels okay. Otherwise, they can stay facing sort of down towards the top of the head, whatever feels best on the body, and see if we can find a bit of a side bend. Let's try to keep the seat bones grounded so that we don't fall over or fall off of our chairs. And then we'll inhale through center here. Let's exhale, release. Good. Okay, let's roll the shoulders a couple of times, and then we'll inhale, reach up. Let's do that again, maybe crossing the opposite, the wrong fingers. It'll feel a little wonky, and then we'll find a side stretch over to the other side. Come on up through center, inhale, and exhale. This time, let's bring the hands behind. We can clasp the fingers, open up, find a big open front side body here. Hopefully you have space behind you in your chair. If not, the hands can just come and reach to the side of the chair, open up through the front side body here. And then release. Let's go right into our tabletop. Now, if you're in the chair, just stay seated, and we're going to move through a bit of cat-cow. You can move through seated cat-cow, whereby you're just, what we were just doing, opening up through the front side body, and then using the hands pressing into the lap to try and round through the spine. So when you're seated in your chair, the seated cat-cow will round and open. Of course, you can stay seated on the mat as well for cat-cow, or make your way to tabletop, roll into one hip, and we'll come into our tabletop if you're joining me here. Let's spread the fingers nice and wide, press into the mat. We're going to pull the belly in as well, and we're going to stack our joints. So stack shoulders and wrists, stack knees and hips, nice strong base, and we'll flow through our cat-cow from here. Dropping the belly, opening up the front side body. Inhale here, and then we'll use our palms as well, pressing into the mat to round through the spine. Exhale. Inhale, drop the belly, look up, tilt the tailbone up as well. Find any movements that feel okay in your body. Move with your own breath, exhaling as we round, inhaling as belly drops. So moving with your own breath here. All right, good. Let's exhale here, and then we'll meet with our next inhale, flat back. And we're going to start in with our balance work. So from our tabletop, we'll reposition if need be. We're looking sort of straight down at the mat, nice long spine. Let's kick our left leg out behind us and feel our hands, make sure the weight's evenly distributed. If we feel nice and stable here in our tabletop, we can start to lift that leg off the mat. Not too high, just kick it straight out behind you. Keep the hip dropping down towards the mat. So we have a nice long line of energy from crown of head to the foot. And if we feel super strong here, pressing into the mat, maybe we can lift opposite arm as well. So we're reaching through opposite hand and foot with a nice long back here. Inhale, find some length. Exhale or release and switch sides. So we'll kick the right leg out. I'm going to show this option in the chair in a minute. Really rooting down through both hands, making sure we're nice and evenly distributed. Drop that right hip down towards the mat and lift the foot off the floor if we feel strong. And if we do, we can maybe press our, reach our hand and try our balance here. Inhale, find that length, and then exhale, lower. Now move between sides here, and I'll demonstrate options in the chair. That looks pretty much the same, but we're seated in our chair. We're gonna lift our right leg, woo, that's our chair kicking into place there, and opposite arm. So if this is enough balance work for you, you can feel your core working to keep you seated up nice and tall without rolling over to one side. That's our core work, that's our balance. You can stay here and lower and switch sides. Or if you're feeling nice and balanced in your chair, you could do this on the floor as well. You could start to draw the elbow and knee together, either underneath the core if you're on the mat, or to in front of the body here, squeezing that core and then opening up, lowering, and then switching sides. So a couple of options, knee to elbow or not, opposite hand and foot or not. So nice balance work already in our opening work sequence here, feeling the heat building, feeling the balance kicking in, keeping us seated, keeping us stable on the mat. I'm going to join you back on the mat. Keep going wherever you are. We'll do a couple more here. It doesn't matter what leg you're on. I'm just going to try and catch up. Maybe finishing off the last round or two. And then we'll meet back in a child's pose. So send the hips back if you're on the mat. Fold forward over the lap if you're in the chair. Reach the arms forward. Make space for the belly. You can open the knees up. Maybe we lift our forehead a little bit and walk on over to one side. Feel a side body stretch. You can do this in the chair too. Lift the forehead, we'll walk through center and then all the way over to the other side, side body stretch. Let's come back through center here. We'll come back through tabletop. Now we're gonna make our way up to standing, and you have an option to just make your way any way that feels safe, or you can lift the hips up, press into a downward dog, and then walk the feet and come all the way up to standing. Sweep the arms up, exhale the hands down to our side. Okay, I'm gonna turn forwards here. So we'll do a bit more breath work and do a few balance poses. Before we get into that, the chair option today, you can stay seated and kind of work on the postures we were just doing, and I'll show a couple more as we get into it. I'll show the sequence once we warm up a little bit more. But the chair option as well is to use the chair as a prop. If you don't have a chair, you could use a wall. So just because we're working on balance doesn't mean we can't hang on to things, okay? So really being mindful of how you're feeling. Some days and some sides are better and worse than others, and that's okay. And balance is kind of challenging, but it's kind of fun to see where we are. And who knows what affects our balance, our mood, our food, the weather, I don't know. But it's always quite interesting to see where our balance is going to be every time we do this practice. So just keep that in mind. You may not want to be sitting in the chair, but you don't have to abandon it altogether. In fact, I'm probably going to use the chair for balance myself today. But before we get there, let's do a little bit more breathing and a few sort of balance warm-ups. So let's just come into our mountain pose, feet about hip width. We're going to bring energy up through the legs, really press down into all four corners of the feet. Really imagine sort of trying to rip them out apart with the legs, bring a bit of energy there. Stability through the core here, which is going to be key in all of our balance poses. Nothing in balance is hanging loosey-goosey in the air. Every muscle wants to work to help us find that balance. Let's bring our hands down by our sides, closing the eyes if that feels comfortable. And from here, let's inhale, reach the arms up. Inhale. Exhale. And bring the hands down. If you're seated, same thing. Just inhale, reach the arms up. And exhale. Just going to move back a little bit here. All right. Now I moved back because the next time we're going to try and come up on our toes as we inhale. And my mat's really thick, so I find it hard to balance on. But I do have my chair, like I said. So let's take a big inhale here. Reach the arms up. And see if we can come up onto our toes while we're reaching. Ooh. Yeah, so see, I've come off the mat onto the harder floor to find a bit of stability. The thicker mat makes me wobbly. So while we're reaching on our toes, engage through the glutes, the core, and reach, 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 reach. And then exhale, lower the feet down. Good, let's try that again. Inhale, find stability here, then see if we can maybe come up on our toes and reach, 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 squeeze the glutes, squeeze the tummy, find all the muscles working, even the shoulders, reach through the fingers. I know you can't see my fingers, they're reaching, reaching, reaching. And then exhale. All right, inhale one last time. See if we can come up on toes. I know my hands are reaching up. You can't see it. If I was down here, you'd see them. And we're gonna get there. We're gonna try some chair stuff as well. And then lower down. All right, shake it out. And like I said, let's try some chair balancing. Inhale, reach the arms up and sit down into chair. Hands can come to prayer at heart center, or they can reach forward or up alongside ears, but if that's too much, finding an alternate for the arms. Good, sit low, take a look, can you see your toes? If you're in the chair, option for chair breath is of course to just be breathing, or maybe lifting a little bit out of the chair and just knowing the chair's there for some support if need be. The rest of us are pretending we have a chair behind us. Okay, let's come out of that, take a big inhale. Let's exhale back into a chair again, hands wherever you feel stable. And then inhale to reach up. One more chair around here. All right, let's inhale. Let's sit back in our chair again. Now before we go into two toes in this chair, let's see if we can just clip onto one toe. Same if you're seated, see if you can come up onto one toe. If you're seated, you might even want to try lifting one foot. We're not going there for on the floor yet. Let's lower that heel or foot down and inhale. Exhale back into chair. Let's see if we can come up onto the other toes. Again, if you're seated in the chair, maybe you're gonna see if you can lift one foot. You'll notice right away that core work, that balance kicking in. All right, for those of us on the mat, lower that foot, inhale. Let's exhale into chair again. You can choose one foot or the other, or try coming up onto both toes. See how that balance is. Woo! Send the bum low. Keep the chest high. Hold on to something if need be. We're going to stay here for one more round of breath. All right, let's drop the heels back down. Inhale. Let's let it go with a forward fold. So we can fold over the legs, drop the belly. We can bend the knees lots here. Same in the chair, fold over the thighs. Let it go, shake it out. Knees can be nice and bent and our belly and torso resting on our thighs. All right, let's come all the way up. Inhale and exhale. We're back in our mountain pose. Okay, so we're now going to come into one of our other sequences. We did this sort of mountain and chair sequence. Now we're going to come through star, tree, and eagle. So that's the sequence. If you're in the chair, you may want to scooch. I don't know what kind of chair everyone has, but if you have some room to scooch to the front or the side so that we could work on star pose, tree pose, and eagle. So tree might look like sort of a bit of a stretch, and then eagle, we're going to close the legs in even tighter. But all of this work, we're going to try and stay up nice and tall. We're going to work with arms and hands, and you'll feel that balance even if you're seated. And then we'll switch sides. Or, like I said, I'm going to use the chair for balance. I just don't know where it's going to go today for me. So, coming into our mountain pose, I always like to take a few moments before we go into these really challenging balance poses to just come back to the present moment, come back to our breathing and body. So a couple rounds of breath here. Eyes can be opened or closed, scanning our bodies. And then from here, let's transfer the weight into our right foot. And you may or may not be holding on to something for support. Left hand can come to the waist, or we can reach it out for extra support here. And then we're also going to step our left foot out to the side. Now, for our star pose, we might stay here. We might play with different arms. They can be any shape, any variation. We might feel already a balance challenge happening here. Use the glutes, use the core. Maybe we want to lift our foot off the ground, and now we're balancing on our right foot. Ooh. And maybe we're using our props, engaging through core. Energize through this leg that's stuck out to the side here. Don't let it be floppy in the air, and let's stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Option to touch the toes down or transition right into any version of tree. So the hands can stay out, just like in star pose. They can come in towards heart center, and the foot here can be down on the floor with sole of the foot at ankle, on our shin, or way up here on our inner thigh, pressing this leg into this leg, and opposite forces to help us stay nice and balanced. If we're choosing a foot on the leg, we just want to avoid the knee, so make sure it's below or above the knee. Hands anywhere you feel comfortable for tree. Squeeze the bum, engage the core, and stay for 3, 2, and 1. Again, you can touch down or move straight into eagle, where that same left leg that was out is now going to come and cross over top of the right leg. Maybe this left foot even hooks behind, maybe it doesn't. And maybe you want to sit down a bit lower. This might even help the cross get in a little tighter, holding onto a prop, hands where they were, or coming into eagle arms. We've got our left leg over top. Let's sweep the left arm underneath, reach back for shoulders, or come into the full eagle arms, where the palms come in front of the face and we find our balance here. Toe can touch down at any time, or if it's too much, we find our props to help us. And we're going to stay for 3, for 2, squeezing the legs, and 1. Good. Let's unravel everything and shake it out. Good. Ooh, maybe what do we call this? Empty coat sleeves. Just swing it all out. Let it go. Take a breath. You don't need to move your chair. I'm just going to bring it over to this side now as we transition to the opposite side. But as always, let's spend a few minutes grounding, calming, and letting that other side go. It has nothing to do with what is going to happen when we go to balance on this side. Let's take a few breaths. Option to raise the hands, option to close the eyes. A few calming breaths, a few grounding breaths, and then we'll start to transfer the weight into the left foot this time, holding on to our props or anywhere that our hands might help us find balance. And then this time we'll step that right leg out. We might stay here. We might lift the arms and foot off the mat, and we'll find our star pose here. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the belly, energize through this lifted leg, and stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Remember, you can touch down to transition into tree. Arms can be anywhere that feels comfortable. And foot on ankle, shin, or way up here. Just avoid that knee. Finding your tree pose here. Squeeze the bum and belly. Press the legs into each other to find that sort of counter energy. Lots of energy in tree, and stay for 3, 2, and 1. And again, you can touch down or cross that right leg on top of left. Sit down a little low if that helps, and then try to hook that right foot behind. It might not get there, it might, who knows. Just squeeze these legs in nice and tight, and sit the bum low. That'll actually help you find a bit of balance, sort of counterbalance the weight here. Arms can be at heart center, they can be in prayer, or we can come and find our eagle arms. We're going to sweep the right arm underneath, and they can reach for shoulders or come into the bind. All right, we're in our eagle. Let's stay for 3, 2, and finally 1. Let's start to unravel everything nice and slow, shake it out, and then let it go. That sequence is now in the past. All right, I'm just gonna move the chair back over here. Again, you never have to move your chair around. Mine's just nice and light, so I can keep it in frame and show different options with it. Okay, let's move into our last sequence. So we had done our second last sequence. We had done a little bit on the floor, a little bit of core balancing. We've done our our tippy toe balancing. We did a little bit of a sequence with our trees just then. And now we're just going to come into, I don't know, a little bit of regular balancing, again, lifting our left leg off the mat. So let's transition the weight into right foot. You can hold on to a chair, or again, any arm variation, maybe even on the hips. And we'll come up onto our toes. So like the beginning of class, this is maybe where we stay. We want to try and keep the hips nice and level here to the floor. If we feel like we're looking for a bit more of a challenge, we can lift this knee up. Again, don't let the left hip come up. Keep it nice and parallel to the floor. And we'll stay here, energize through this leg. So flex the foot maybe, find that stability. Option to hold on to the chair. If you're in the chair, you're lifting one foot off the floor as well, and right away you'll feel that core kick in. We've got one more breath here. Option now to bring left hand to the outside of the left knee and either stay or guide it open. Again, let's try and keep those hips nice and parallel as we open it up to the side. So we're using the strength of our glute, all the muscles keeping us stable, and hands can be, again, anywhere that helps us feel stable. We've got 3, 2, and 1. Let's bring it back to the front, maybe even lift it in nice and tight, and then lower it down. Good. Oh, shake it out. And one final switch of the chair for me before we go to the next side. This time we'll transfer the weight into the left foot, maybe come up on right toes. This might already feel like enough. Check in with the hips. If this hip lifted up, try and keep it nice and parallel to the floor. Find where you're stable. If you're looking for a little bit more, maybe flexing and lifting that right foot off the mat. Again, don't let that right hip come, just lift the leg. Hips are parallel to the floor. Your hips are like a bowl full of water, and you don't want to slosh the water all around. One more breath here. Option to stay or bring that right hand to the outside and help guide that right knee out to the side. Again, checking in with where the hips are. Try and keep them nice and parallel. Let's stay wherever we are for 3, 2, and 1. Let's guide it back. Maybe we can squeeze it in and then lower it down. Whew. Let it go. All right. Ooh, that was a lot of standing balance. Let's make our way down to the mat again. Option to flow through a downward dog vinyasa, or just make your way down to the mat in any way that feels nice and safe. I'm actually just going to make my way down. I'm going to skip out on downward dogs and flows today. So let's come around to seated, on our sit bones here. So we want to see if we can just do a little balancing on our sit bones. So if you're in the chair, this is going to be a nice option where you can lift one leg off the mat, off the floor, and then the other, or maybe both, but I think alternating and drawing one knee in towards the chest is going to work best to challenge your core strength and balance in the chair. For those of us on the mat, we want to find those sit bones here. And without rounding through the spine, maybe rolling off them a little bit of core strength here. Let's see if we can lift one or both legs. The hands can hold on to the backs of the thighs. They can release. You can reach up, anything you want. But we're balancing here, using our core strength as well to keep a nice long back. Option to have one foot down or the other. That's kind of your option in the chair as well. And then we're going to see if we can, with our nice long back here and our knees drawn in and energizing anywhere, can we roll on to the sit bones, sitting up nice and tall without falling forward. See, I'm going to get down to my sit bones like, oh, I lost it. If you lose it, no problem. Reset, lean back off the sit bones, find your balance, and see if you can come back up to sitting up nice and tall on the sit bones without falling forward. Here's our balance challenge. Let's see if we can say for 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's a really tough one. All right, let's let it go. Let's roll forward, open the knees up, find a butterfly. Take a few breaths here. And then we'll roll up. We'll draw the knees back together, and we can roll down to our backs to finish off our practice, or of course, option to stay seated. If you've rolled down to the mat, gather the knees in towards the chest. You can rock side to side. And if you're in the chair, option to just draw one knee and then the other, or fold forward into child's pose in the chair. Option here as well to lift the feet up towards the ceiling if you're on the mat, and you could draw circles on the ceiling. This will help just massage out the low back a little bit. And then we're going to bring both feet down. We're going to let the feet find the mat. If you're in your chair, if you're seated in the chair, find a few rounds of cat-cow just to try and open up through the front side body. Often when we're in our balance poses, we're sort of really crunched in, especially like that eagle one, we're all crunched in. So you want to open up through the front side body. If you're on the mat, let's find a gentle bridge pose, feet and hands into the mat, press into the feet and hands, squeeze the glutes, lift the hips up off the mat. And we'll just stay here for 3, nice and open. Find a couple rounds of cat-cow if you're seated in the chair for 2. Keep lifting and opening through the front side body for 1 more full cycle of breath here. Inhale and exhale. Take a big inhale here, and then exhale, roll it down. All right, step the feet wide, windshield wiper the knees back and forth. Find any movements that your body might be craving before we move into our Shavasana, our final resting pose. Maybe you're looking to stretch some more things out. Maybe you want to do a second round of bridge. Maybe you just want to stay with windshield wipers. Anything goes here. Take a few breaths. And then when you feel ready to move into Shavasana, lots of options. The knees can stay bent and fall in towards each other. Maybe you want to come into a reclined butterfly, or maybe traditionally extending the legs out towards the corners of the mat, hands down by our sides. If you're in your chair, find your comfortable seated position. Maybe even lean back into the support of the back of the chair. And let's all scan our bodies from head to toe and toe to head. And don't forget those arms and fingers. And just notice if there are any areas we're still holding on to any tension. Maybe checking back in with those areas from the beginning of class where we weren't feeling so great. Has anything changed? If not, that's okay. Just breathe a little loving kindness to any spaces that need it. Remember, Shavasana is the time for our physical and energetic bodies to absorb all that good work we just did and turn it into something magical. It's a time for integration and rest. And know that rest is different from sleep, and that we need both every day, and we should never pass up an opportunity to just rest and do nothing. Staying exactly as you are. Especially if your body wants or needs to stay in Shavasana for any length of time, you can press pause here or let the video play out and make your way back to whatever is calling to you in your own time. If you're ready to start waking up, wiggling through fingers and toes, circling wrists and ankles. You can choose to stretch along your mat, or maybe curl into a little ball one last time, just before rolling over to one side and making your way to a comfortable seated position if you're not already there. And once we're seated, hands can remain on our lap. We can bring our hands to prayer if that feels comfortable. We can just rest them over our hearts, whatever feels best for you. I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your personal private yoga practice spaces and for allowing me to guide you through our poses today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you here through the lens again next week. Until then, take care. Thank you, everybody. I hope that balance was equally challenging, fun, and exciting for you. It's not one we do often, but it is important. I think it helps us feel balance physically, but also kind of mentally as well. And I think that we all can use a little bit of that. Hope to see you here again next week. Take care.